A new wave of gang violence is terrorising Melbourne. The Apex crime group is hell-bent on its carjackings, armed robberies and violent home invasions. And now there's a new threat to public safety, a gang calling itself Menace to Society. In a moment, we'll talk to a former organised crime squad detective turned MP about what needs to be done. But first, this report from Reid Butler.
We are very concerned at the growing gang violence and lawlessness in Victoria, in particular in Melbourne.
Violent scenes like these, sadly, are becoming all too familiar in suburbia. But now there's a frightening new threat to the community's safety, a street gang known as Menace to Society.
As if Apex wasn't bad enough in the other gangs, now we have Menace to Society, which seems to be even more brazen and even more violent.
The surge in street violence and vandalism has sent shockwaves right to the top, with MPs from both sides of politics pleading with the Prime Minister to take urgent action to try and fix the youth crime crisis. The PM today blaming Victoria's Premier, Daniel Andrews, for the crime spike.
Victoria Police is a huge organisation, much larger than the Federal Police. It needs the direction, it's got the capacity to do the job.
So what's the story behind this emerging crime group? Well, what we know is members were likely involved in this recent rampage through Werribee in Melbourne's west. Dozens of gate crashers stormed a house party, brandishing garden stakes as weapons and pelting responding riot police with rocks. Here's Victoria Police Assistant Commissioner Bob Hill.
The investigation will see people arrested as a consequence of that cowardly behaviour that occurred in the Werribee area.
The home was trashed, but more troubling than the mess were the graffiti tags left scrawled all through the property. They read MTS and Apex. Apex, of course, is the name of the loosely affiliated gang of youths who've terrorised Melbourne for the past year. MTS, well, that's one we haven't seen before. It was also news to Victoria Police Minister Lisa Neville.
No, there's no intelligence to suggest that there is such a gang. They've written that down. I think they would like to be a gang. I think they're wannabes, and I don't want to give them any notoriety about this.
The party was organised by a group of teenage girls who rented the home through Airbnb. Word of the event spread at a nearby basketball tournament. Gate crashers, believed to be part of the Menace to Society gang, stormed the home in the early hours of yesterday morning. Detectives are investigating whether the same group is linked to several other rental homes being trashed in recent days. Last week, a community centre in Tarneet in Melbourne's west was destroyed by the gang, with teenagers smashing walls and windows, again leaving their tag, MTS, scrawled throughout the property. Drug paraphernalia was found among the rubbish.
We're going to end up having a riot here.
Sophie lives nearby and says gang activity in the area has become far worse in recent months.
I come out here every night and I take my dogs out overnight, and you hear the noise coming from the park, the yelling, the screaming. At one stage I could hear smashing of bottles, and I'm thinking, for God's sakes, seriously.
They're dangerous, really dangerous.
Anna and her little brother Jonathan say they're too frightened to even leave their home.
We're always stuck in the house. There's no fun. We just have to stay in the house all day long.
And it's not just the public in the gang's sights.
Police on the beat are being warned by their superiors they could be at risk of being ambushed by these young gang members. In a memo circulated by Head Command, they were warned that these young offenders could be trying to lure them into dangerous situations to attack them.
The memo included an example of a patrol car in Tarneet tailing a vehicle being driven by a boy as young as 13. As the vehicle approached a laneway, a group of up to 40 African youths surrounded the car. Police believe this was a deliberate ploy to lure officers into the laneway with no escape or exit paths.
Minister, what's your response to this idea that these groups could be planning ambushes on police officers?
There's no systematic intelligence that suggests that's the case. In this there was a particular incident that occurred. At this point, no one's even sure whether people were trying to pull police in and trying to set this up.
John Pizzuto is Victoria's Shadow Attorney General.
It's clear that with yet another gang, this time Menace to Society emerging, we need to get tough with these gangs.
The problem of ethnic street gangs is not Melbourne's alone. A Sudanese gang tormented a Brisbane family last week. The thugs broke into the Thornlands home, needlessly destroying furniture and attacking two brothers, Nick and Josh.
They just came at me and I was just absolutely terrified. I didn't know what to do.
Terrorised my sister. I came downstairs. They came for me.
The same group has been linked to a violent attack on a woman in a Sunnybank car park. It's believed the group was high on a drug known as cat, an African drug that has made its way to Australia.
When they come here, they think they have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. And the parents are powerless to act because some of the things they do in Africa may not be acceptable here.
Jaffrey Katagar is a member of Melbourne's Sudanese community.
They do the criminal activities they're doing. It does have an impact on the wider African community because you find the whole African community is being labelled as being violent.
Menace to Society is the name of a US gang movie from the 1990s.
All I'm saying is, survive.
The film, set on the mean streets of Los Angeles, involves violence, profanity and drugs, and the characters are teenagers. Whether Melbourne's newest gang has been inspired by the cult classic of the same name remains to be seen. But what we do know is this type of networked offending is likely to be loosely connected and organised over social media.
Now that we have Menace to Society joining the likes of Apex and other gang networks in Victoria, Victorians have every reason to be extremely worried right now.
And I'm joined now by federal Liberal MP and former police officer Jason Wood. Jason, thank you for your time this evening. But in your time in Victoria Police, you worked in the organised crime squad, and now some of your constituents are members or victims of these gangs. You've seen this from all angles. So where do you think we're going wrong?
Well, first of all, the blame is squarely with the state Labor government. Soft bail laws and sentencing. I know Matthew Guy's looking at that. But also, if we look at gangs in general, we do need a national violent gangs database to target emerging gangs. And also, something I've raised before is having a coordinated Australian Federal Police with the Victorian Police Task Force in the southeast and the western suburbs, the hotspots. They do this in America with the FBI and the LAPD, where both have very specific skills and resources. When they team up together, they can make a huge difference. And can I say too, to have early intervention with youth workers, and that's what the LAPD do with the FBI, having them in the same building to give some hope to those to ensure they don't go down the path of getting involved in serious organised crime and carjackings.
A lot of Victorians would no doubt love to see many more of these criminals deported. Is that the solution?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if a person, and this is one of the recommendations on our migration inquiry just recently, if a person between the ages of 16 and 18 years who's on the visa, who commits a serious violent attack on someone else in Australia where that person is seriously injured, as far as I'm concerned, they've given up their right to the journey to become an Australian citizen, and once they attain the age of 18 to have them deported, and anyone over the age of 18 years who gets involved in serious assaults, carjackings, ramming of police vehicles, again, they should be deported. The sad thing is, though, the Shadow Immigration Minister was also in the committee, and Bill Shorten's right-hand man, if elected on immigration issues, put a dissenting report in saying they wouldn't support this. My view is we need to put Victorians first, their safety first, and not those on visas first.
Yes, we need to see all these agencies and all the political parties working together. Jason Wood, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.